अब्रवीत्।
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
अब्रवीत्।
संजय उवाच
संजय उवाच
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकाम्
दृष्ट्वा तु
पाण्डवानीकम्
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
आचार्यम् उपसंगम्य
आचार्योपसंगम्य
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
संजय उवाच
संजय उवाच
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकाम्
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
आचार्यम् उपसंगम्य
आचार्योपसंगम्य
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
Anyone else would like to recite?
संजय उवाच
संजय उवाच
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकाम्
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
आचार्यमुपसंगम्य
आचार्यम् उपसंगम्य
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
संजय उवाच
संजय उवाच
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तथा
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
आचार्यमुपसंगम्य
आचार्यम् उपसंगम्य
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
संजय उवाच
संजय उवाच
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
आचार्यमुपसंगम्य
आचार्यम् उपसंगम्य
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्। Anyone else?
संजय उवाच
संजय उवाच
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
आचार्यमुपसंगम्य
आचार्यम् उपसंगम्य
राजा वचनमब्रवीत्।
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
संजय उवाच
संजय उवाच
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकम्
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
व्यूढम् दुर्योधनस्तदा
आचार्यमुपसंगम्य
आचार्यम् उपसंगम्य
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्।
राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्. Okay, let's recite the synonyms. Sanjay uvacha. Sanjay said. Drishtva. After seeing. To. But. Pandavanikam. The soldiers of the Pandavas. Vyudham. Arranged in military phalanx. Duryodhana. King Duryodhan. Tada. At that time. Acharyam. The teacher. Upsangamya. Approaching. Raja. The king. Vachanam. Words. Abravit. Spoke. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words. Purport. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion, and he was sure that they could never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Still, he was doubtful about the influence of the place of pilgrimage, and Sanjaya could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Sanjay wanted, therefore, to encourage the despondent king and thus assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise. Under the influence of the holy place, Sanjay therefore informed the king that his son Duryodhana, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhana is mentioned as the king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician. But Duryodhana's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisheshi Shunyavadi Paschate Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. I read the translation. Can everyone go on mute, please? Okay. I read the translation one more time. Sanjay said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words. So this is the first chapter of the Gita, and we started reading the first verse. The first verse is a famous verse, Dhritarashtra Vacha. That's the only verse that Dhritarashtra speaks in the Bhagavad Gita. I believe the first chapter, there are 47 verses, if I am not wrong. And the name of the chapter is Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. So different acharyas have given different names to the chapter of the Gita. In the Mahabharata itself, the Gita comes in the Bhishma Parva, which is the 6th Parva of the Mahabharata, chapters 25 to 42. Now there are different versions of the Mahabharata, and in certain versions, the chapter numbers are different because we know that Mahabharata has been interpolated quite a bit. So there are different versions. So the version that I am referring to, most commonly, it is accepted that chapters 25 through 42 in the Bhishma Parv is the Bhagavad Gita. So now these chapters do not have any name in Mahabharata itself. Different acharyas have given different names to the different chapters. So Prabhupada calls this as observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Saina Nirikshan Yoga. The word yoga comes at the end of every chapter name because everything is meant to connect to Krishna. Yoga means to connect to the, to connect basically to the higher consciousness. It comes from the word yuja. The root is yuja. Yuja means to connect. So other acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have used the names such as Arjun Vishad Yoga, the lamentation of Arjuna, which is both are the true. So if we look at the name used by Srila Prabhupada, that at least I think in my mind that's more appropriate, because both Duryodhana and Arjuna, they both observe the armies on the battlefield. First Duryodhana does, and then later we see that Arjuna also wants to observe the army on the battlefield, and then Krishna drives the chariot in the middle of the battlefield where Arjuna actually sees, and then he becomes bewildered after that. So in the first chapter, there are different sections. So we know that it starts with Dhritarashtra Vacha Dharmakshetra Kurukshetra. So Kurukshetra, as we all know, has different, Prabhupada explains it very nicely in the purport, what is the significance of the word Dharmakshetra, which is used for describing Kurukshetra. And then there is another word that comes in Mahabharata itself, which is Tapakshetra. Tapakshetra means a place where austerities are performed. So many people would have done multiple austerities in Kurukshetra, and that is where the name has come, Tapakshetra. And even for Kshatriyas, fighting in the battlefield is like austerity. It's very difficult at times to fight these big wars. These are not ordinary wars. So they will start from the beginning of the day, and they will continue until the end of the day. Just imagine, if you have to standing in a field throughout the day would tire us so much, but these warriors have to very tactfully fight in the battlefield throughout the day. It's so tiring in one sense. But these are also very experienced fighters, warriors. They are not ordinary warriors. So they know how to pace themselves so that they can withstand the full day of fighting. So, so here we see that in the second verse, so it's a very significant verse in one sense. Okay, Sanjay is reciting. So the first verse was spoken by Dhritarashtra, and the second verse is spoken by Sanjaya. So he's responding to Dhritarashtra. He says, "O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu." So before that, Dhritarashtra had asked a question to Sanjay. What did they do? Kim akurvatah Sanjaya. What did my sons and the sons of Pandu do when they came together in the battlefield of Kurukshetra? So Sanjay is responding to that question now. He starts with his answer by saying that, "O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words." So here Prabhupada makes a very interesting comment that Dhritarashtra was not only physically blind, he was also spiritually blind, and his sons were also equally blind. So he knew that his sons will not come to any particular compromise with the Pandavas. And then Sanjay also wants to assure Dhritarashtra that there is no compromise that is being done on the battlefield. So Duryodhana actually comes, and there is a significant a word that is used for Duryodhana, which is king. Raja Vachanam Abravit. So King Duryodhana said these words. So now Raja, we know that Duryodhana is not the king, but still he is being referred here as the king. Now Prabhupada explains this here, that Duryodhana was very diplomatic, and in that sense, the word Raja is very appropriate for Duryodhan. So Baldev Vidyabhushan in his commentary, he describes that there are multiple reasons for using the word Raja. One is that Sanjay knows that Dhritarashtra is very morose, so to encourage him, so he uses the word Raja for Duryodhan, because ultimately Dhritarashtra wanted to see Duryodhana becoming the king of Hastinapur and the entire kingdom. So he wanted to encourage him, and even technically calling Duryodhana is not wrong. Prabhupada actually doesn't directly say that, but he's indirectly mentioning that. So we know that Duryodhana at that time was the reigning prince, and for all practical purposes, Duryodhan was kind of Dhritarashtra was just like a puppet, in the hands of Duryodhana. Duryodhana was running the show. It's like when India had this Congress government. So one person was actually the prime minister and the other person was actually running the show behind the scenes. So something similar was happening here also. And even if you look at it from a Shastric perspective, Rajniti Gyau iti Raja. This is what Baldev Vidyabhushan explains. One who knows Rajniti, one who knows politics, he is a Raja. So Duryodhana, as we will see later, when Duryodhana actually makes these comments and the way he incites both Drona and Bhishma, we see how he was very, he's very shrewd. He knew how to do politics. So before we move on to the next verse, are there any questions or comments or corrections about what I said?
Prabhuji, here Duryodhan goes to Dronacharya, right? And Prabhupada mentions in this verse only he is a commander in chief. Is that right in the purport?
O king, after looking at the armor in my sons of King Duryodhana went to his teacher.
Or is it
That is
next?
right. Where are you reading that?
No, in the purport, does it mention that, the commander in chief? I think the fourth line from the bottom.
Commander Chief is Bhishma, right, initially?
Yeah, actually, so the way it is explained is a good catch. So we know that on the battlefield, on the sides of the Pandavas, the commander of the army was Drishtadyumna.
Okay,
And
district.
on the side of the Kauravas, the commander, at least at the beginning, was Bhishma. So Bhishma Parva is, that's how the name comes of the Parva, Bhishma. So it is explained that both Bhishma and Drona were standing together. So actually Duryodhana goes towards Bhishma also. So he wanted to address both of them together, but he first addresses Drona. So after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. So Drona will later become the commander-in-chief. So if someone else has any comments on that, please. Why is Prabhupada saying that Dronacharya is the commander-in-chief? My understanding is that both Drona and Bhishma are standing together, and then he actually goes there and addresses both at the same time, but he first addresses Drona. And there is a reason for it. So Acharya explained that he is not able to determine in his mind that whom to address first, but then he thinks that because Drona is a Brahmin, let me address him first, which will not be inappropriate, because Brahmins are given preference over the Kshatriyas, and Bhishma is a Kshatriya. So he addresses Drona first. But why Prabhupada is calling Drona as commander-in-chief? Any other reasons anyone would like to share here?
Because he was the teacher, military teacher. And no?
The word commander-in-chief doesn't designate him as a teacher. Commander-in-chief means the chief commander of the army.
Army, but he was the military,
Teacher, yeah. Then he could have possible.
kind of like a
Okay.
commander of the
Yeah, that is.
of
So
the
Drona is the
of the Rajya, you know what I'm saying?
Could
Of
be.
the whole Rajya.
Drona is the teacher of many of the warriors who are assembled here.
Correct, yeah. But he was kind of Rajya.
Right. Could be.
I was
Guru,
thinking same as Gita Mala Mataji. I don't know if Prabhupada's intention was to really say that, he is the kind of the commander for that period. I don't know what sense Prabhupada was intending here, and it probably is good to see if some of the manuscripts are available on this word.
Yeah.
What Prabhupada intended. The intention doesn't seem to be what we are discussing. That's what I'm feeling. But very good catch though.
Okay. Any other comments, corrections, questions?
Looks like someone is studying the Bhagavad Gita, not reading.
That's very true. Someone is reading the commentary. Someone is studying the commentary of Prabhupada actually, including Bhagavad Gita. Okay, I'll move on to the next verse then. All right.
I was thinking about Anand Vrindavan Prabhu's skit. I'm doing at least 10 minutes every day.
Okay, all right. We'll just recite this verse once and then we'll move on to the translation and purport. Okay, you can repeat after me. Pashyetam Pandu Putranam
Pashyetam Panduputranam
Acharya Mahatim Chamum
Acharya
Mahitam Chamum
Vyudham Drupada Putrena
Vyudham Drupada Putrena
Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
Tava Sishyena Dhimata.
Synonyms: Pashya,
Pashya,
behold,
behold,
Etam,
Etam,
this,
Pandu
Putranam,
Putranam,
of the sons of Pandu,
of the sons of Pandu,
Acharya,
Acharya,
O teacher,
O teacher,
Mahatim,
Mahatim,
great, Chamum,
Chamum,
military force,
military force,
Vyudham,
Vyudham,
arranged, Drupada Putrena,
Drupada Putrena,
by the son of Drupada,
by the son of Drupada,
Tava,
Tava,
your,
Yo.
Shishyena,
Shishyena.
disciple.
Disciple.
Dhimata,
Dhimata.
very intelligent.
Very
Intelligent.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada. Purport: Duryodhan, a great diplomat, wanted to point out the defects of Dronacharya, the great Brahman commander-in-chief. Dronacharya had some political quarrel with King Drupada, the father of Draupadi, who was Arjuna's wife. As a result of this quarrel, Drupada performed a great sacrifice by which he received the benediction of having a son who would be able to kill Dronacharya. Dronacharya knew this perfectly well, and yet, as a liberal Brahmin, he did not hesitate to impart all his military secrets when the son of Drupada, Drishtadyumna, was entrusted to him for military education. Now, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Drishtadyumna took the side of the Pandavas, and it was he who arranged for their military phalanx after having learned the art from Dronacharya. Duryodhana pointed out this mistake of Dronacharya's so that he might be alert and uncompromising in the fighting. By this, he wanted to point out also that he should not be similarly lenient in battle against the Pandavas, who were also Dronacharya's affectionate students. Arjuna especially was his most affectionate and brilliant student. Duryodhana also wanted that such leniency in the fight would lead to defeat. I'll read the translation one more time. O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada. So here again, Prabhupada is using the word Brahman commander-in-chief. So actually, in one sense, it was understood that on the side of the Kauravas, the very prominent warriors were, Drona and Bhishma. So actually, Dronacharya was a very significant warrior in this battlefield because, as I was mentioning earlier, Dronacharya was the teacher of many of the warriors who were present on the battlefield. And as a teacher, he knew what are the strengths and weaknesses of the different warriors who actually he had taught. So all the Pandavas were his disciples. Basically, he was the martial teacher of all the Pandavas, and even including Drishtadyumna, who is the commander-in-chief of the Pandavas army. So he knew their strengths and he knew their weaknesses. So he, in one sense, can exploit that also to his advantage. So that could be one reason Prabhupada is mentioning Brahman commander-in-chief. So any, I'm just like, again, this I'm just trying to, think aloud here that why Prabhupada would be calling him, because again, second time he's calling him Brahman commander-in-chief. So any military strategy that they would be forming against the Pandavas, obviously Bhishma would also consult Dronacharya. He is not going to do it on his own. Even on the side of Pandavas, although the main commander was Drishtadyumna, at least on paper, but it is, if you read Mahabharata, you would see that Arjuna played a key role in forming the strategy for each day. What would be their formation, how would they attack, who would they attack, So Arjuna was consulted, and at times Arjuna actually decided how it should be on the battlefield, their strategy. So similarly here, Dronacharya is one of the very prominent commanders here. So okay, now here in this verse, so Prabhupada explains this, how intelligent Duryodhana is. So here in this verse, Acharya explained that actually Duryodhana is using sarcasm. Sarcasm is also a powerful tool at times to get things done from people. We also see that even in, if you look at the Chaitanya Charitamrita, at times even Lord Chaitanya would do that. He would come and, how nicely you have cleaned this. Although we could see, people would be able to see that the place is not very clean, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sarcastically say, how nicely you have cleaned it. So similarly, Duryodhana is pointing out, Prabhupada also explains this, that he is pointing out a defect of Dronacharya. So Dronacharya actually had set up an academy, and in the vicinity of the Hastinapur. So we know the story that Dronacharya, after getting the military, uh, after getting the weapons from Parshuram and the training on how to use those weapons, he was returning to his home. At that time, he was passing through the vicinity of the Hastinapur, and there at that time, both all the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they were very, like, they were young boys, and they were playing, and their ball fell into a well. So they were not able to get their ball out, and they were, trying very hard. At that time, Dronacharya was passing through there. So he heard the commotion, and then he went over there and he asked the boys, "What is it that you are, so worried about? What do you want?" So then the boys told him that actually our ball has fallen down into the well and we are not able to take it out. So at that time, what Dronacharya did is, he was a very expert. So he used straws of grass, and then he threw these straws of grass and the ball. So, and with that he made like a rope, and with that rope he pulled out the ball. And when he did that, some of the boys were so amazed, they ran to their back to their home, and then they told about this to Bhishma and others. And Bhishma immediately understood that this is a very expert person, and he was at that time looking for someone who could teach the boys archery and other martial arts. So he immediately sent some messengers, and he called for Dronacharya, and Dronacharya came over there. At that time, Bhishma requested that, why don't you please teach our these princes the archery and other martial skills. So at that time, Drona agreed. And Drona, as we know, at that time, he was very poverty-stricken Brahmana, and he actually needed some means to, sustain himself and his family. So he set up his academy over there, and then he put some rules over there, that who would he accept as a disciple and who he would not accept as a disciple. So we know that Dronacharya refused, what was his name?
Ekalavya.
Eklavya, yeah, thank you. Because he did not fit into the category, including actually Karna had approached along with his father to Dronacharya, but Dronacharya had refused, that I cannot be, you don't fit, you are not qualified to be my student as per the whatever my standards are. But Drishtadyumna was fit according to those standards. So he couldn't say no to him, because there was no reason for him to say no to Drishtadyumna. He knew that Drishtadyumna is born to kill Dronacharya, but he couldn't say no, and he accepted Drishtadyumna as his disciple, as a student. And then he imparted the education of of the weapons to including Drishtadyumna. So here, so the same thing Duryodhana is pointing out. Tava Shishyena, your disciple, very intelligent. He is your disciple has very, by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada, he says. So he is pointing out to Dronacharya that actually he's your disciple. So you have been very lenient in giving him this education, but don't be lenient now. So Duryodhana had this doubt on the, Duryodhana knew that both Drona and Bhishma, their heart is not into this fighting. They are very inclined towards the Pandavas. Pandavas were very virtuous, and they were on the side of the dharma. So, but they were obliged to fight on the side of Duryodhana, both Dronacharya and Bhishma, for various reasons, as we know. Now, another thing is, so here it says Drupada Putrena. So Prabhupada also says that, he points it out. So he doesn't directly say Drishtadyumna, he says Drupada Putrena. So by the son of Drupada, it is explained that Prabhupada explains that actually Dronacharya had some enmity with Drupada. So he is trying to use that also to his advantage, that actually Drupada, he is the son of Drupada and you have an enmity towards Drupada. So remember that at least, and fight wholeheartedly. So now we know that Drupada had two sons, at least two sons who were present on the battlefield. Does anyone know who was the other son?
Shikhandi.
Yeah, Shikhandi was the son of Drupada. Actually, Shikhandi, so the storyline of Mahabharata is very interesting. So we know that Shikhandi kinds of becomes the cause of the death of Bhishma, and then Drishtadyumna becomes the cause of the death of Drona. So both these, great generals were killed by the sons of the Drupada. So now we know that the storyline goes that Shikhandi in his past life was Amba. Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika were the three princes of Kashi. And there was this Swayamvar. Swayamvar is basically a ceremony where the brides would choose their groom. So Kashi, the king of Kashi had arranged for this Swayamvar, and he did not invite anyone from Hastinapur. And at that time, Bhishma felt very, insulted that how could you not invite anyone from Hastinapur? So he goes over there and he basically forcefully brings the three daughters of Kashiraj, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika, to his kingdom, and he wanted them to marry Vichitravir and Chitrangada. So at that time, Ambika and Ambalika agree, but Amba says that no, actually, Bhishma, I have accepted Shalya as my husband. I don't want to marry, these two people. I want to just marry Shalya. So at that time, Bhishma says that, okay, that's fine. If that is what you want, you can go back and you can. So Shalya actually rejects. He says that another man has touched you. Now I will not accept you. So she feels very infuriated, and then he comes back and she requests Bhishma. She tells that actually you should marry me because Shalya has rejected me. So Bhishma rejects her. He says that actually I have taken a vow. I can't marry you. So it's a long story short, but she feels very insulted, and she was feeling revengeful, and she goes to the forest at that time. And in the forest, she actually does a lot of austerities. She meets a lot of sages, and she requests the sages to help her. So at that time, there is a sage whose name was Hotravahan. Hotravahan was the maternal grandfather of Amba. He takes pity on Amba, and he says that actually I will do the needful for you. So he says that Parshuram is going to come tomorrow, and Bhishma is the son of is the disciple of Parshuram. So if Parshuram tells Bhishma, he would not say no. So next day when Parshuram comes, Parshuram at first refuses that I don't want to get involved in this. But then there is another Brahman who was also a disciple of Parshuram. His name was Akritvan. Akritvan was a Brahman, and he requests Parshuram. And Parshuram had a policy that if a Brahman asks me to do something, then I will not refuse. Hotravahan was not a Brahmin. He was a Kshatriya. He had become a Rajarishi. He had renounced and he had came to the forest. But Akritvan was actually a Brahmin. So when he requests, then actually he agrees, Parshuram. And then he goes to Hastinapur, and then Bhishma becomes very surprised at how could Parshuram come here. So he receives Parshuram, and then he asks him, what do you want? So then Parshuram tells him that either you marry Amba or you fight with me. So Bhishma says that actually I have taken a vow, and being my preceptor, you should help me in withholding my vow. You should not be asking me to break my vow. So he says, nothing doing. You have either you fight with me or you accept Amba as your wife. So he says that actually I'll fight with you. I'll not break my vow. So they both agree, and that battle also happens in Kurukshetra, battle between Parshuram and Bhishma. So the battle of Mahabharat was there for 18 days, but the battle between Bhishma and Parshuram, it continued for 24 days. It was a very fierce battle, and each day was it was like a nail-biting, match kind of. And there were supporters from both the sides. So all these Akritvan and Hotravahan and all the Brahmins had become the supporters of Parshuram, and they had come to see the fight. And then all the Kurus, they become kind of the supporter. They also came to the battlefield to see how Bhishma is fighting. So when this fighting begins at that time, so there is this principle that Kshatriyas will only attack people who at least have a chariot. So otherwise, there is also a verse that comes in Srimad Bhagavatam directly that a person who is not on a chariot should not be attacked. So when Bhishma comes to fight, he was on a chariot, he had his armor on, he had his weapons. But Parshuram comes just with his bow and arrows. So Bhishma says, how could I fight with you? You are not even on chariot. So he laughs actually, Parshuram at that time. He says, the earth will be my chariot. The Vedas will be my horses. The wind will be my charioteer. And the mother of Vedas, Gayatri, Saraswati and Savitri, they will be my armor. Just fight. And then he had that. As soon as he says that, he shoots like thousands of arrows towards Bhishma, and Bhishma almost gets blinded. And when he comes back to his senses, he sees there is a big chariot that has appeared over there, and this Akritvan had become the charioteer of Parshuram, and the fierce battle starts. So this battle continues. So, and sometimes Bhishma would get the upper hand sometimes. Parshuram would get the upper hand, but Bhishma then realizes, this is no use fighting this battle. I cannot defeat Parshuram. So on the 23rd day, Parshuram actually fights with redoubled vigor, and he knocks out Bhishma, and then Bhishma was swooning, and he was thinking, what should I do? So at that time, these 8 Vasus come over there, and then they appear like Brahmins, and they're like celestial beings, and they tell Bhishma, just get up, don't worry, victory will be yours. So at that day, on 23rd night, he was thinking, what should I do? At that time, the Ashtavasus appear again. And they say that actually you are one of the Vasus and you have forgotten your past life, but let us give you the memory of your past life. And they remind Bhishma of his celestial origin. And then they say that actually when you were a Vasu, you knew this weapon, Parashrava weapon, which was created by Vishwakarma, and nobody in the entire cosmos knows about this weapon except you. So he says that tomorrow you use this weapon. They remind him of this weapon. So they are like astras. Astras are invoked by chanting different mantras. They are not physical weapons where you can use them. And so it's like an astra. So he says that you use that weapon, but Parshuram is a Chiranjeevi. He cannot be killed, but he will be knocked out. He will be he will lose his consciousness, and then you can use Sambodhana weapon to bring him back to consciousness, and that way your victory will be established. So 24th day, he takes out this weapon, in a sense that he invokes this weapon by chanting the mantras, and he was about to use it. At that time, many different sages appear. Narada comes, Brahma comes, and then he says, he is an ascetic, you can't use such a weapon against him. But Bhishma pays no attention to these people. So at that time, Parshuram sees that this is a Parashara weapon and I cannot counter this weapon. So he gives up his weapon. He puts aside his bow. Oh Bhishma, I have surrendered. I have accepted. You win. So at that time, Bhishma and Parshuram, they come down, and as after a match, both the captains would shake their hands. So they come and Bhishma comes and offers his obeisances to Parshuram. Parshuram says, "You have done Perceptor proud by by your expertise in your prowess. I'm very proud of you." And then he turns to Amba and then he says that actually I have done everything for you. I can't do anything more for you. So please relieve me of this now. So at that time, Amba, she feels very vindictive. So she actually goes back to the forest and she continues her austerities. And then at that time, there is she's going to various holy places, and she was like not eating at all for 1 full year. She doesn't eat anything. It is mentioned in Mahabharata. After 1 year, she ate 1 leaf. So like that for 12 years, she does very severe austerities. And then at once she was standing in the river Ganges. At that time, Ganga appears over there, and she asks, why are you doing this kind of austerities? So she doesn't realize that it is Ganga. So he says that his Bhishma had insulted me and I want to kill Bhishma. That's why I'm doing it. So Ganga becomes infuriated. He says that, "Oh wicked lady, if you don't give up your austerities, then I'll curse you that you'll become a river and you will be like a dry river. Only in the rainy season you will have some water, and your waters will be infested by crocodiles and fierce, creatures. So nobody would be able to enter your waters. So it'll be like a diseased river." So she pays no attention to Ganga, and then she continues her austerities. And then after that, it is explained that she goes to a place called as Vatsabhumi. At Vatsabhumi, she becomes so exhausted that she falls on the ground, and then she actually becomes a river. And actually, in the North India, there is also still that river is there. Amba River, where there are a lot of crocodiles in that river actually. So nobody can access that river very easily. So Vatsabhumi, but due to her austerities, only half of her body becomes like a river. So she could still, sustain her body. At that time, many different sages come to Vatsabhumi and they ask her, what happened? Why are you doing this? So then she explains everything. So then they tell her that you actually appease Lord Shiva. Only he can help you. So then she does austerity. Then Lord Shiva appears over there. And then Lord Shiva, then he actually gives a boon that, okay, in your next life, you will be able to, you will become the cause of Bhishma's death. So at that time, Amba actually puts, like a funeral pyre, and then she jumps into that funeral pyre, and then she kind of commits suicide. The next birth is very interesting, which is not very well known. So this is in the Mahabharata, it is given that Drupad and his wife had no children actually. So they appease Lord Shiva. And then when Lord Shiva appears, Lord Shiva tells Drishtadyumna and his wife, sorry, Drupad and his wife, that actually you will get a daughter first, and then this daughter later will become a son. Right? This woman will become a man later. And so this Drupad is very confused. Why such a boon? Just give me a son. Why give me a daughter and later this daughter will become a son? So then Lord Shiva says that this is how the destiny is ordained for you. I can't do much about it. This is what I can do. So Drupad had no choice. He had to accept. So soon after, our daughter was born to Drupada, but he knew the boon given by Lord Shiva. So he raises this daughter as a son, because he knew that later this same daughter will become a son. This woman, like a girl, will become a boy or a man, whatever. So nobody in the kingdom would know. Only a few people who were close to the king knew that actually it's not a son, a daughter is born, but nobody else knew about it. So he raises this daughter as a son, and then he gives all the education that is given to boy, including the education of weapons. And then she grows up and becomes quite young. And what happens is the queen says that actually we should get our son or daughter, whatever, married. So Drupad becomes a little pensive. He says that, but she's still a woman. How can we marry? So no, but Lord Shiva's words will not go in vain. Maybe after getting married, he will convert into a man. So finally, Drupad agrees, and then they look for a girl for this girl. So there was a king named Hiranyavarma. So Hiranyavarma had a very beautiful daughter. So they propose to Hiranyavarma, and Hiranyavarma accepts. So they marry Hiranyavarma's daughter to their daughter Shikhandini, was her name. So Hiranyavarma thinks that actually it's not a girl, it's a boy. And then actually on the day of marriage also, he's dressed like a man, he's wearing armors, and he's looking like a man. So, but soon after, the daughter of Hiranyavarma finds out that actually it's not a man, it's a girl, it's a woman. So she sends messengers to Hiranyavarma. So Miss Hiranyavarma becomes infuriated. And it is explained in Mahabharata that this Hiranyavarma is like a very powerful king, very, very, nobody could defeat Hiranyavarma. So he sends an emissary to talk to Drupada, and Drupad tries to explain to emissary that actually this is how it had happened, and we had got a boon from Lord Shiva. But this Hiranyavarma felt cheated, that you cheated me. So he amasses a big army, and then he starts marching towards this place where Drupad was ruling. And when Drupad comes to know about it, he thinks that now it's such a great calamity had come on us. This unnecessary war we'll have to fight, and so many people will die. And when Shikhandini hears this, she thinks that actually this is all because of me. So she says that let me go away from here. So Shikhandini actually goes to the forest at that time, and she was in the forest. This forest is actually known to be a place where a lot of yakshas used to live. So there was a yaksha king who was ruling there. His name was Tuna. So when she was in the forest, she sees a big white palace, very beautiful. So she enters over there, but she doesn't find anyone. Actually, all these yakshas had gone somewhere else at that time. So there was nobody in the palace. So she enters the palace, and then she starts doing austerities over there. And after some time, this Tuna comes over there, and he asks, who are you and what are you doing here? So at that time, Shikhandini explains the full story, that this is how it happened. So this Tuna becomes very very sympathetic to her, and then he says that actually I want to help you, but the only way I can help you is that I can exchange my gender with you. So if that will work for you, maybe we can do that. For 1 year, I'll give you my gender and you take my gender. So it's like one of the first, what is that, gender transplantation surgery. It was not exactly a surgery, but mystically he gives his gender to her and gets her gender. But then he says that don't forget this, come back in a year, because I can't show my face like this to anyone. I'll have to hide in my palace. So Shikhandini, he becomes Shikhandi at that time. He says, "Now don't worry, I'll come back." So Shikhandi goes back, and then at that time when this Hiranyavarma had come with a big army, he sends his priest to Drupad, asking him to come in the battlefield and fight like a hero. So at that time, Drupad says, so Shikhandi had already come back by that time, and then he tells the priest that there is some confusion. Just look at Shikhandi; he's a man, he's not a woman. So at that time, this priest does they do a lot of tests, and they find out that this is actually a man only. So then Hiranyavarma actually then he apologizes to Drupada, and then he stays there with them for some time just to make sure how things are actually. He wants to see exactly what's happening. So then after some time he becomes satisfied and he leaves, and then the Shikhandi goes back to Stuna. So what had happened was, so this Tuna was hiding because now Suna had become a woman, but he was a yaksha, and the king of the yakshas, as we know, is what is his name?
Kuber.
Kubera. Thank you, Prabhu. So Kubera was passing from there, and then he says that, okay, this is my man. Let me go and meet him. So he goes over there to the palace, but this guy doesn't come out to greet Kubera. So Kubera feels insulted. Where is Tuna? Why is he not coming out? So then some of the yakshas, they inform Kubera what had happened. So Kubera becomes really angry. Call this Tuna. I'll just teach him a lesson now. So then he says, no, I was just sympathetic to her. I didn't want to do this. But then Kubera curses him that, you will not be able to get your gender back. You'll have to live like a woman throughout your life. So then some of the other yakshas, they request, please don't be so harsh. He was just trying to help her. There was no other reason. So then he said that, okay, for until Shikhandi is alive, you won't be able to get your gender back, but after he dies, then you can become a man again. So then after that, Shikhandi comes back, and then he is ready to give his gender back. But then Stuna says that, okay, you have been lucky, and for the rest of your life, you can be a man. So that is how this had happened. And Bhishma actually had known this, because when Amba had gone, when this battle between Bhishma and Parshuram had happened, after that, Bhishma had put some spies behind Amba. So he knew exactly what's happening, that she had been doing these austerities and she had appeased Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva had done this, given this boon. And then by his mystic power, he knew that actually Amba had born as Shikhandini. So he knew all of this that had happened. Now, the other thing that had happened is, when, so we know that the enmity between Drupada and Dronacharya. So Drupada and Dronacharya, they were in the same Gurukul, and they were very good friends at that time when they were boys. So Drupada had said that, when I will become the king, so he was still the prince at that time. He says, when I will become the king, I'll give half of my kingdom to you. So when they had grown up, so Dronacharya actually, he was a very poverty-stricken Brahmana. He was not even able to feed his child. So his wife was Kripi, and Kripi was like kind of telling him, at least get something for our son. He will die. He's so hungry. So at that time, Drona remembers that, this guy had given me a promise. So he goes to Drupada. So he reminds him that actually you had given me a promise that you will give me half of your kingdom. Now give me your half of your kingdom. So Drupada at that times, he kinds of insults Drona. So one way to say no is that just say that, no, that was just a joke. I was not serious about it. Why did you take it seriously? So that is one way of saying no. But Drupada actually kinds of insults Dronacharya that, how could you understand and think like this? And Drona, although he's a Brahmin, and one of the qualities of a Brahmin are they are forgiving, and they are non-violent. But still Dronacharya took an offense to it. He says that, how could he insult me like this? He should be taught a lesson. So that time he doesn't go back to Kripi because he was feeling very insulted. And then he comes to know that actually after killing all the Kshatriyas, Parshuram has done a big fire yagya where Kashyap Rishi had become the priest. And, he wanted to kind of atone for so much killing that he had done. 21 generations of Kshatriyas he had wiped out. So, and through the credits of that same yagya, he had revived his father Jamadagni. Jamadagni was killed by the sons of Kartivara Arjuna. So he revives Jamadagni, and Jamadagni goes on to become a Saptarishi at that time. So, but he was giving away everything in charity. So all the Brahmanas were rushing towards, Parshuram, and they were getting charity. So Dronacharya also hears that, Parshuram is giving charity. So he also rushes to Parshuram. So, but he reaches very late. So Parshuram tells him that actually you are late, everything is gone, I don't have anything left. But because you're a Brahman, I can't say no to you. Now I have my body and I have my weapons. Tell me fast, what do you want? You want my body or my weapons? So Drona says, what will I do with your body? Give me your weapons and with the knowledge to use the weapons. So he gets the weapons. And then we know that he actually imparts the knowledge of weapons to the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And after actually giving the knowledge, so they have to give Guru Dakshina, it's like a feast. So he asks in feast that you go and arrest Drupada and bring him here. So first the Duryodhana and all his brothers, including Karna, with the full army of Hastinapur, they go, and then there's a big battle that happens, but they get defeated by Drupada. And then only the 5 Pandavas go, and then they actually defeat Drupada, and they arrest Drupada and they bring him back to Drona. Now what had happened was, when actually Arjuna defeats Drupada, and Drupada was stunned to see the skill and power of Arjuna. And in his heart, he thought, he wanted to have a son like Arjuna. But Arjuna was already, how can he have a son like Arjuna? Arjuna was already there. So then he decided to have Arjuna as his son-in-law, but he didn't have any daughter. So then we know that he actually performs a fire sacrifice from which Drishtadyum comes. So the purpose of that sacrifice was that because he wanted to take revenge against Dronacharya. So from that fire sacrifice, Drishtadyum comes, but along with Drishtadyum, a daughter also comes, Draupadi also comes. And just as Drishtadyum was destined to kill Dronacharya, similarly, Draupadi was destined to marry Arjuna, because that was the purpose of, he wanted a daughter who could marry Arjuna. So that's how Draupadi came out from the fire sacrifice, and then they get married. So this is like just a little bit of history of Drishtadyum. And so Drishtadyum was like destined to kill Drona, and although Drona was his teacher, sometimes people ask this question that how could Drishtadyum kill his own teacher? Isn't that an offense? But actually it was that is how it was ordained. It was he was destined to kill, and Dronacharya knew it very well. And even for Drishtadyum, it was the mission of his life. He was not born like an ordinary child, like he came like a full adult out of the fire. It is explained he was almost 23 years old when he came out of the fire. And similarly, Draupadi was like a young woman. She was not born as a child and then she grew up, and it was not like that. So I stop here. I know we don't have much time left. Are there any questions, corrections, or comments about what I said today?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for explaining nicely. But I have just one, when you were saying about the pastime of Shikhandi as Amba, so what I have heard as a variation is that Lord Shiva gave them the boon of having a son, and they have the daughter, but then they get the doubt then how the Lord Shiva's boon can be false. But later they find out that okay, it might be, she changes as a man later. But that's what is mentioned. And I think the pastime which I have heard, in that it has been mentioned that they raised, because Lord Shiva has told that they'll get a son, so they did not declare that it's a girl, like she's a girl, it's a man, and they raise her as a boy.
Yeah, actually, you're right. There are many different versions of this story. The source of my information is Krishna Dharmas Prabhu's Mahabharat. So I am using that as my source. You can read that. It is available on vedabase.com.
Sorry, Prabhu, what did you say?
The source of my information is Krishna Dharma Prabhu's Mahabharat. So, but you are right. In certain other Mahabharats, it is explained differently. There are different versions of this story, but important point for us to understand is, Shikhandini or Shikhandi, whatever, she was Amba in her past life, and then she was ordained to become the cause of the death of Bhishma. And then there could be many variations about how she was born to Drupada, that is not that important. But you're right that there are many variations. But again, as I said, my the source of my information is Krishna Dharma Prabhu's Mahabharata.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, I just wanted to know. Yes, no, you explained nicely, but just wanted to clarify.
Sure, thank you, Mataji.
I'm glad we have Srimad Bhagavatam.
What does
So
that mean?
complex, right?
Yeah, right.
Mahabharat
Okay.
stories, it's like the whole thing, you know. Bhishmadev took this promise so that his dad could marry another girl.
Yeah, that's true. It's very complicated storyline in one sense.
Just chant Hare Krishna, take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, go back to Godhead. Thank you for sharing that stories too. In Mahabharata is so many intricate things. What is dharma, what is not dharma, and there are so many variations. I
That's
think
true.
it is Hridayananda Maharaj who cites, probably who says, Madhvacharya has said that in Mahabharata things have been added,
Interpolated.
removed, modified. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty complex thing.
Actually, Madhvacharya had written a commentary, Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya. In that he writes both Mahabharata and Ramayana, they have been interpolated heavily, very heavy interpolation has been done to both Mahabharata and Ramayana.
Sometimes we wonder, yeah, go ahead, please.
No, because they are very popular, right? Both Mahabharata and Ramayana. So people want to use that to do some of their own things. So they interpolate.
And Lord Chaitanya specifically gave us, told us Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita.
Right. Actually, there are many different things which are mentioned differently in Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam. There are some differences over there, like the story of Parikshit Maharaj itself. The way it is mentioned in Mahabharata is completely different. It is explained there that after getting this curse from this Brahmin, in Bhagavatam we know that he immediately renounced and he went to the river, and then he was preparing to leave his body. But in Mahabharata it is mentioned that he makes a big fort, and it is almost impenetrable. Not even wind could come inside that fort. He wanted to prevent this Takshak to come in and kill him. So that is how it is mentioned in the Mahabharata.
Yeah, I read that in my Sanskrit class in 10+2. And I was like, why isn't this there anywhere in Bhagavatam?
Right.
And
Very
also,
different.
the character of Queen Kunti seeing through Mahabharata and movies, doesn't come across. Whereas when you see in Srimad Bhagavatam, she's such an exalted soul, exalted devotee. Yeah.
But we know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Bhagavatam is the Amal Purana. So we have to accept what is there in Bhagavatam, not Mahabharata. And even Prabhupada had said that, we, as long as a particular book, whatever the book could be, scriptural or non-scriptural, Vedic or non-Vedic, as long as it agrees with Srimad Bhagavatam, we accept it. Otherwise, we don't accept it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the reason why I said at the beginning, I'm glad we have Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right. Exactly.
And this Krishna Dharma Prabhu's version is actually really good because, there's so many things. Mahabharata is, romance and politics and all this stuff, and it's very hard to keep focus on bhakti. But Krishna Dharma Prabhu did a good job in bringing out the Vaishnava side of it so that it doesn't just look like, a movie catering to all these other things. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for taking the time to reading all that stuff and giving us the katha.
All right. I think we can stop here. Thank you, everyone. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.